For over 6 years, we've been patiently awaiting the sequel to Team Cherry's masterpiece, Hollow Knight. And now that Silksong is finally here, the question of the hour is, was the wait worth it? Hollow Knight Silksong is the game the devs had too much fun making, and I had too much fun playing. It takes the gameplay from Hollow Knight and expands on it in a way that makes it hard to ever go back. Hornet is much more agile and nimble than the Knight. She can sprint, flip, float, you have this little horizontal grapple. The movement in this game is so fluid and satisfying. Hornet also has her own dialogue and personality, which makes for some pretty hilarious interactions with the NPCs. As with any Metroidvania, the main focus is on exploration. There's an incredible sense of progression, encouraging the player to explore every nook and cranny. You want to keep finding new moves, new tools, new upgrades. You'll unlock an upgrade that allows you to access an area you previously couldn't, only to find that exploring that new path opens up into an entire new area of the map, containing 10 more secret areas. This game does such a good job at enticing the player to scour every inch of this beautiful hand-drawn world. The environments in this game are gorgeous. They're so detailed and meticulously constructed. Each area expertly establishes its own unique atmosphere through the aesthetic, enemies, and music. Oh man, the music in this game. Christopher Larkin had a Herculean task creating a soundtrack that was on par with that of Hollow Knight, but he absolutely outdid himself. Silksong has more than double the tracks in the OST of Hollow Knight, and they are all amazing. The ominous choirs of Deep Docks imply that this is a place of respected forge masters and blacksmiths, and if you listen closely, you can hear the striking of hammers against metal in the background. The beautifully somber melody of Biowater suggests that this was once a beautiful paradise that has now been tragically overrun by pollution. And of course, the crown jewel, the Coral Chambers. Going into this game, I was hoping that there would be a significant location that would have the same impact that City of Tears did in the first game. And my god, did Coral Chambers deliver and then some. When you first enter, its massive halls are silent and empty. Then, after meeting a certain character, the chambers come to life. Strands of silk begin to weave their way into the enemies everywhere, and you are greeted with one of the most magnificent musical tracks I have ever heard. There's an echoey, almost distant quality to the track, as the piano, strings, and ethereal choir all reinforce just how absolutely grand this location is. When the music really begins to swell up, it evokes a feeling inside you that you really can't properly describe with words. It's something that only the most talented of composers can achieve, and it cements Christopher Larkin as one of gaming's true greats. The enemy design in this game rivals that of From Software, not just in the sheer amount of enemies, but also in their variety and creativity. And don't even get me started on the bosses. Not every fight is memorable, but it's insane just how many memorable boss fights are in this game. Just like with the locations, the boss music is just as, if not even more amazing, with Lace, Widow, and Trobio being some of my favorites. It is worth mentioning, however, that for as awesome as the bosses are, some of the runbacks are just brutal. Forcing players to do long and difficult runbacks after dying to a boss is really irritating, and it can overshadow an otherwise fun and enjoyable boss fight. While it's not a super prevalent issue, the runbacks that do suck really tend to stick out in your memory. While we're on the topic of bosses, let's talk about the combat itself. When you first start out, all you have is your basic attack. But as you progress, you unlock new crests that change up your moveset, as well as the amount of slots you have for different kinds of tools and items, as well as these powerful silk skills. It's a really cool system that adds a ton of variation to the combat based on your playstyle, as well as room for a lot of fun build crafting. However, there are two minor issues with it. The first being how the different crests affect your down attack. The down attack is a key element to your movement in this game, as a lot of the platforming involves using said attack to pogo off of certain enemies or bouncy things. Some crests, such as the Wanderers and Reapers, have a straight down attack that make pogoing pretty straightforward. Some, however, like the starting Hunters and the Architects, have a diagonal down attack that definitely takes some getting used to and can be frustrating for some people. Having to position yourself diagonally above something you're trying to pogo off of, especially having to do multiple pogo jumps back to back, just doesn't click for some people. Then you have the Beast Crest, and I don't know how anyone is supposed to pogo with this shit. I mean, hats off to you if you can actually use this thing regularly, because Lord knows I can't. But anyways, this isn't a huge issue as you do have so much freedom in how you approach the gameplay. I just don't think that the crest you start the game with should have the diagonal down attack, because I think that a lot of people who are first getting into the game will probably struggle to get pogoing down, as it is a little bit awkward if you're not used to it. The main issue I have with the crest system is that every time you unlock a new crest, it comes with very minimal tool slots available. In order to unlock more, you need these memory lockets, which are fairly rare and hard to come by. Tools are incredibly powerful in this game, so if you want to use a cool brand new crest you just unlocked, you're inherently putting yourself at a disadvantage, because unless you've been stockpiling every memory locket you've come across, chances are you won't be able to unlock all the tool slots on that new crest, like you mostly have on the one you primarily use. I just don't really like how it kind of discourages the player from using cool new crests until you unlock enough lockets. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. On the topic of combat, one point of contention among the online community is this game's difficulty. This game is hard, much harder than Hollow Knight, which is a good thing, in my opinion. If the game is a sequel, it should be harder than the first one. I don't think that's too ridiculous to say. When you have an insane boss or tricky platforming section you're struggling on, having to repeatedly fail and then learn in order to overcome that challenge is really rewarding. It's what makes difficult games so fun. So while I think this game's difficulty is actually really well balanced, contrary to what Twitter might have you believe, I don't think it's absolutely perfect, and here's why. I think there is one minor inconsistency when it comes to the amount of damage bosses do. In Hollow Knight, there were a handful of boss attacks that would do 2 damage to you instead of the standard 1. In Silksong, nearly every boss in the game does 2 damage with almost all of their attacks. Which I think is a fine way to make it harder. It makes it more punishing if you fuck up and get hit by the boss's attack. Emphasis on get hit. Because some bosses will deal 2 damage to you simply if you accidentally run into them, which maybe is just a step too far. I know it may sound somewhat contradictory given that I just said the game being less forgiving is a good thing, but when a staggered boss falls on top of me or when I accidentally fat finger my dash button and I take the same amount of damage as the boss's full power attack, it feels a little cheap. But this is a minor complaint. It never really ruined any of the boss fights for me. It was just something that was kind of annoying when it happened. Like I said, overall I think the game's difficulty is really well done. It doesn't pull punches and will absolutely whoop your ass a couple of times. But the difficulty is legitimate, and when you finally get good and conquer that piece of shit boss, it feels incredible. Lastly, I wanted to briefly mention the story. I think the story is great. I really enjoy how it's told through the characters you meet and the places you explore. There's also plenty of secret lore tidbits hidden all around the world to uncover. If you want to break from the main story, you can do one of the many NPC side quests. While there are a few interesting story-driven character quests, Unfortunately, most of them are just bland fetch quests involving killing a bunch of a certain enemy or donating a bunch of rosaries. I do like their inclusion here, but I wish there were more of the interesting ones and less of the kill 10 of this enemy to get this item. The overall tone of this game is pretty dark actually. Throughout your journey, you encounter these pilgrims who are all on their own quest toward the Citadel, hoping they will find some sort of religious salvation. The world is littered with dead pilgrims and those that have fallen to madness on their hopeless climb. You find an infected village full of bugs being held hostage by mysterious threads. You go to this evil-ass hospital. Hornet gets her cloak and needle stolen so she breaks some dude's neck. Despite it all though, this game is incredibly charming. There are so many funny and likable characters. You have these fleas you can find scattered throughout the game, and they are just the cutest things ever. There are moments of beauty and awe, as well as lighthearted interactions that will surely make you smile. Overall, I think Silksong is amazing. It's got everything you want in a game. A beautiful and exciting world to explore, fun and challenging combat, a masterfully composed soundtrack, a well-written story, and Sherma. He's the best part of the game. 4 out of 5.